had hundreds of Americans that have traveled to fight in the region, and some of those have returned. So we talk about barbarians at the gate. We need to keep them out of the gate, and we need to monitor those who've gotten through the gate. This is a serious homeland security issue as well. We don't want to see what happened in Paris happen here in the United States.
Committee Chairman Michael McCall with probably the soundbite from yesterday's Sunday shows appearing there on Face the Nation from CBS News, saying that Americans are going to fight for ISIS and they're coming back here to the United States. Let's bring back in our co-host, Jack Berkman, the conservative talk show host who hosts a program entitled Behind the Curtain. Jack, it seems to me that the Obama administration would be happy to kind of sweep all this under the rug. They continue to make the argument, look at the number of federal employees who will be put on furlough if we don't fund Homeland Security instead of dealing with what by the accounts of the Homeland Security chairman, is a clear and present danger.
Yeah, it says, JD, this story gets worse. I mean, you hate to ascribe evil motivations to any president, even a liberal Democrat, but really the only thing Obama wants to do is grow out the Leviathan, 5 million amnesty. This is naked politics. They want to bring people over the border. They want to get them on welfare. They want to get them into the federal system. They want to convert them to Democratic voters, liberal Democratic voters. That's all this is. This is just raw Chicago politics being practiced on the southwest border. Obama is bringing the streets of Chicago to the southwest.
Well, while we see what's happening politically, there are real threats to our national security. That's why we're so pleased to call in Frank Gaffney, president of the Center for Security Policy, who likewise joins us from Newsmax Washington. Frank, news this morning that a former Gitmo detainee and former Taliban commander who had recently sworn allegiance to ISIS was killed in a U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan. Is this a big win?
Well, I think on balance, it probably would have been better just to keep him in Guantanamo Bay, don't you think? But at least he's been neutralized. The trouble is that so many of the other ones that the president has insisted on releasing, either in exchange for a deserter or for no benefit whatsoever to the country, are back in the fight, and we have not neutralized them yet. And the bigger problem, JD, is that the administration, starting with the president, including his national security advisor, Susan Rice, the military leadership at the moment, and John Kerry most particularly, are clearly living on a different planet than the one the rest of us are living on when they tell us that we're just confronting this Islamic State outfit and that it has nothing to do with Islam, when they tell us that we're winning the war against them, when they tell us that it's a great success to have withdrawn all of our forces from Afghanistan shortly and Iraq in the recent past. I mean, these are delusional statements, but it's worse than the fact that they're deluding themselves and misleading the American people. What they're doing, I'm sorry to report, is emboldening the global jihad movement, of which the Islamic State is just one manifestation.
Let me ask you this, Frank. Why is it that Obama so fundamentally misunderstands radical Islam? I mean, I never thought the president was stupid. Sometimes I'm confused. I don't know whether Obama just has no comprehension of foreign policy, or is it, in some sense, even at a more sinister level, does he not see himself as representing the United States? In other words, he sees radical Islam as some kind of malleable force that he can change, even though all the evidence is to the contrary. Maybe we have the wrong assumption. Maybe he's not really representing the United States. I really pose that as a serious question.
Well, I would answer it this way. I think the president is of the view that Islam, not radical Islam, but the authoritative version of Islam, is in fact a legitimate and desirable and, well, laudable enterprise. And there are many Muslims who, would meet all of those tests. Unfortunately, they don't include, to my way of thinking, the authorities of Islam or those who are following their tenets, the practices dictated by the Quran or the Hadiths, the Sunnah, and so on, the folks who believe in the traditions and institutions of Islam are, I'm afraid, part of the problem, to the extent the president is both admiring of them and enabling of them. I think isn't just, again, a problem of not understanding what's afoot here. I think it's a deep sympathy for it, and it translates, again, into an empowering and emboldening of the jihadists who are our mortal enemies. Make no mistake about it, whether they're using violent techniques or more stealthy ones. In fact, we put together recently at the Center for Security Policy this document, a strategy, we call it the Secure Freedom Strategy, for how you defeat an enterprise like this, a global jihad movement with an ideology of Sharia, rooted in what, as JD knows, my old boss Ronald Reagan used to defeat the last totalitarian ideology, Soviet communism, that tried to destroy us. We believe there's a lot of applicability here, and if people are interested, they can find it at securefreedom.org.
And Frank, with the about a minute and a half that remains, you talked about this administration, this commander-in-chief being on another planet. It's worth noting what National Security Advisor Susan Rice had to say recently about what she perceives to be a threat to our national security. Let's take a listen.
American leadership is addressing the very real threat of climate change. The science is clear. The impacts of climate change will only worsen over time. Even longer droughts, more severe storms, more forced migration.
Frank, with the minute left, what do you make of this, quote, strategic patience and climate change being a national security issue in the eyes of Susan Rice?
Yeah. Well, JD, first of all, strategic patience, I guess, is the follow-on to leading from behind. It seems as a formula for not leading at all anymore, and I think that, again, is a formula for disaster. On climate change, look, the knowability of the reality of jihadism within Islam is infinitely greater than the certitude that we have about climate change, and particularly the man-caused dimension of it. And the fact that the administration refuses to see what Sharia is about, let alone allow us to address it directly and effectively, I think is she's just adding injury to the insult by her comments about climate change.
Frank Gaffney, we thank you very much for weighing in. We will continue to monitor the situation and look forward to having you back. Jack Bergman, you stay right there, and the rest of you stay tuned, because America's Forum will continue following this Newsmax Now update.